Today, we're going to be discussing the 5 greatest college highlight tapes, mixtapes of all time. My choices, not yours. I want that clear from the start. I'm making the call here because there are luminaries of the college football highlight world, people you remember as being astonishing, like Tavon Austin, West Virginia's outstanding do-everything receiver and playmaker, an incredible guy. Not on this list. Devin Hester, Miami's astonishing punt returner and kick returner. Not on this list. He could be. Johnny Manziel could be, if you wanted him to. He's an incredible playmaker, somebody who single-handedly raised Texas A&M from the middle to the top in terms of who we talk about in college football. Beat Bama on their own field. He's not on this list. These 5 are fearsome. I carefully considered the options, and after reviewing the tape, I have no choice but to make these 5 fearsome options my top 5 college football highlight tapes of all time. Number 5, we're going to go ahead and get started with Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, he probably has a tape that looks a lot like this from the pros. That's how incredible he is. The only man in the history of college football to take 2 guys down with 1 tackle as a solution to the option. Someone let him play football against people who would later go to law school shortly after their college football playing careers ended. Not fair, not human, perhaps not legal. His last year at Pitt, he had 28 and a half tackles for loss and 11 sacks from the tackle position. An astonishing dude. If you put on this tape, it's like a narcotic. It just gets better and better and better, despite the fact that he's not much taller than the linebackers behind him. Number 4, give him his flowers, Peter Warrick of Florida State. That is right. I, a University of Florida grad, am going to go ahead and award one of these coveted slots to a Seminole because, frankly, I have no other choice. Every single frame of a Peter Warrick highlight reel, no matter which one of them you watch, will contain something astonishing. Impeccable timing, great breaks, ability to accelerate from a dead stop that would make rally cars envious, hands for days, the ability to stab and pull a ball out of the air. If you watch this, sometimes, and this is before we did this all the time and before the spread offense really took over college football, they would just give him the ball out of the backfield or on an end around. Why? To scare the shit out of you. That's why. Peter Warrick, when you talk to guys who played in that era and came shortly after him, will always nod their head. Fearsome respect at his accomplishments. Go ahead, start the film. See what they're seeing. It's scary. Be warned. It's a horror film for the defense, not for you. Number 3. And number 1 in my heart, if I'm going to be honest, Orlando Pace. How many times do we give these sort of, hey, you got to watch this highlight tape to a skill player? All the time. And I'm giving it to a skill player now because though he played left tackle for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and though he would go on to a long and distinguished career with the Rams in the NFL, Orlando Pace is a skill player. Watch the tape. Go ahead, put it on. Tell me he's not a skilled player. Watch it, and then listen to some of the stories people would tell about him. Watch him pile drive actual All-Americans. Watch them put him in the turf. Watch how he finishes every single play, crushing someone. Sometimes out of pass blocks. I don't even know how you do that against starting college football defensive ends, but he does it. This was a bear, a beast who could clean 400 pounds with ease. This is a guy who destroyed defenders to the extent that he's the guy who popularized the term pancake block because it was the only way to describe what he did to defenders. I want you to look at this footage. It looks like it was shot on a potato cam in 1991, and yet you can see it. That's how good he is. That somebody from 30 years ago in college football could still look terrifying to you through all of that haze. Luke Fickell, all right, and a champion wrestler and football player, all right, for Ohio State. Quote, "I've always said God is fair, but I don't know if I believe that anymore because I'm working my butt off and I can't even come close to running with this guy. He has a legitimate claim to be the greatest football player to ever walk through the doors at Ohio State. I'd certainly make that claim. And if you doubt me, behold his works and despair. Number 2. And when I say the name, you'll be astonished that this is the second choice, which means number 1 must be fearsome. Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush. The frightening, the talented, the electric, the kinetic, the untackleable. The guy where every play looks like he had a 5-yard start. Do you need 8 yards on first down? I have a cheat code for that, and his name is Reggie Bush. Do you want a football inheritance so that you're going to be rich on every offensive series? That is Reggie Bush. Elite change of direction, elite burst, the ability to break tackles. I still say underrated given his size. A dude who was looking at the safeties coming out of the backfield because the linebackers were irrelevant. The dude backflipping and front flipping into the end zone. The guy who lateraled in the middle of a national championship game because he could. A mutant, different, elite, sometimes escaping the surly bonds of this earth and gravity itself to score. You could make an entire highlight for Reggie Bush, an entire tape based on the Fresno State game alone. Every time a defender comes into frame, you can see the thoughts of that man and him looking at all of the regrets of his life and the mistakes he made to get in the position where he was asked to exist on the same level as that man. Forget the pro career. Everything that Reggie Bush was supposed to be as an athlete manifested itself at its best at the college level. Demon. And number 1 on this list, and frankly, it's not close, Barry Sanders. They let Barry Sanders play college football, another person for whom this should not have been a legal option. Barry Sanders would make defenses puke in a bucket from tension and anxiety pregame, and it didn't get better once the whistle blew and they actually had to play. In his Heisman season, he had 2,628 yards. He had 37 touchdowns. He didn't have consecutive 100-yard games. He had consecutive 200-yard games, 5 of them at one point. He scored 2 TDs in every single game that season. You couldn't hope to limit him to 1. 2 was mandatory, and you were hoping to prevent 3. Barry Switzer told his team to be careful not to injure Thurman Thomas when Barry Sanders was a sophomore backup because you won't touch this kid. An absolute genie, an athlete of unparalleled precision, fast twitch on an entirely different tier of being. Somebody who, like Reggie Bush, started looking at the safeties because everyone else in front of him was going to be irrelevant. Barry Sanders made professionals look like scared, confused children. At one point in a pro game when he was with the Lions, he had a defender looking at him with his back turned because he had no idea where Barry was and was completely turned around. What makes you think that the old Big 8 and the rest of college football had a chance against this man? When you're about 30 seconds in, the jaw drops. And when you're about a minute and a half in, your mouth gets dry because you realize it's been open the whole time. I know young people who might be watching this, old heads will say, oh, this guy's good. Yeah, but no, they're right about this one. They're right. Still good. Still amazing. Barry'd be good for 2,000 today. Someone who, in today's age of spread offenses, would be something beyond a nightmare and less than a god, but just by a hair. Barry Sanders, that is the ultimate college football mixtape. That is the ultimate college football highlight reel, the likes of which I don't know if we're ever going to see again, because again, that is a single order purchase, one available. Once it's gone, it's out of stock forever. Now, I know. You have opinions. That's great. Go make your own video. I would love to watch it, okay? I'm sure you have awesome things to say. But there are a few classics of the genre that we need to acknowledge, even if they're not included in this list. The first, Earl Campbell stiff-arming a defender and carrying him for 5 yards like luggage. Not an exaggeration. Carried that man, picked him up and carried him, extended in the arm like a balloon for 5 yards for a touchdown in a regulation football game against other college grade football players, other scholarship athletes. This play's so good. Look at the ref. The ref can't even help himself. He leaps. He leaps because he knows he's never going to see that again. Another classic that bears mentioning, and one that I think would probably result in criminal charges today under the current rules of football and the expectations of our civilization in the year 2024. Sean Taylor on PK Sam. Sean Taylor absolutely tries to wipe this man off the planet. To PK Sam's credit, he's awake and gets up afterwards, though I don't know how great he feels. As downhill safety a play as I have ever seen in college football from a playmaker who made a ton of those kinds of plays. Another one of a kind, Sean Taylor, another mixtape essential. I don't know why he wasn't on this list. I think I made a mistake. I'm sorry. This one's a deep cut, but at number 3 in the honorable mentions category, I got to give it up to the dude, Joe Adams. Joe Adams of Arkansas. Every Razorback fan of note right now just pump their fist and they're like, hell yes, brother. Because Joe Adams is that dude. Joe Adams against Tennessee makes 7 guys miss. 7. Was this punt return a good idea? No. There are no good ideas in this punt return. Joe Adams is walled off, caught, desperate, running for his life, and everyone on Tennessee has an angle on him. Everyone. I'm watching it right now. Someone should have tackled him. 7 different someones should have tackled Joe Adams on this punt return, and yet he refuses to die. Not today, we say to Mr. Death. That was Joe Adams at Arkansas. And it's just, yeah, don't ever do this. That's how I know this is a good highlight. I can look at this highlight and I would tell a young football player, don't ever think about even attempting any of this. That's how difficult, impossible, and utterly bananas this punt return is. Joe Adams, respect his name. Should have put Tavon Austin on there. God.